What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Sierra, and today I am showing you how we are DIYing a wooden headboard because y'all know I'm cheap, so that's what we're doing. Me and Jonathan, I'm about to go get him and we're gonna go to Lowe's. I found a video slash thing on Pinterest that kind of gave us what we needed to get. I'll link it down below in case you guys want to make this for yourself, because I don't have like a blueprint or anything of my own. I literally just found it online. So my mom made me a list from the videos of everything that we're going to need. Basically just a bunch of wood pieces, some screws, and some nails. Nothing crazy, but we are going to have them cut it for us. So yeah, I'm going to go get Jonathan, and then we're going to get going to Lowe's, I guess. Guys, I just picked up Jonathan.
Or did she?
And he's bald. He's baby face.
On the front now, I'm still bald in the back.
Yeah, you've been bald back there, you poor guy. Have a whole new fiance. Look at him. Oh wow. All right, now we're going to Lowe's. This is gonna be great.
Oh yeah, real good. I look like I'm 19 again. Holy shit.
You look beautiful, babe.
Yeah, I know.
We're gonna need a buggy. So it's the next day and we are about to start making this headboard. Well, Jonathan and my mom are. And here comes Hendrix. He's gonna totally ruin the shot. Hello, my sweetness. Anyways, we're gonna make this headboard and we'll see how it turns out. So the first thing that you're gonna need to get is two 2x4 by 8 foot boards. They're both going to need to be cut at 56 inches a piece. These are going to be for the legs of the headboard. Always make sure that you measure it more than once. Always measure twice, cut once, measure it from each side. As you can see, we're doing here, my mom's measured it in a couple different places, and then she used this little tool to draw a straight line so that Jonathan could cut it straight across. Again, this is not a project for someone that doesn't have hand tools, just because it's probably going to be a lot harder. So we use a little handsaw thing, and as you can see, she's measuring it one more time just to make sure that she got it right. The next piece you're going to need is a 1x4 by 8 foot piece. This first one right here is going to be cut at 63 inches. And as you can see, again, we're measuring more than once. I cannot stress that enough. Measure, measure, measure over and over again before you cut it, because you don't want to cut it too short and then not have enough wood for your project. Also, really recommend this little straight edge triangle type deal because it helps make a straight line all the way across so that you know exactly where to cut. Then we used a skill saw to just cut off the piece that we didn't need, and you just let it fall on the ground and it was just extra. This piece right here is actually for the top of the headboard, just to add some dimension. Again, Jonathan's just using the skill saw to cut this. Whenever it does cut and the piece falls off, sometimes the ends can be a little rough, so they will need to be sanded down eventually before you attach everything. This one turned out pretty decent. This next piece that you see here is a 1x10 by 6. You'll need 3 of these, and they'll all need to be cut at 62 inches a piece. This actually is the main part of the headboard, so the very middle of it, you'll attach 3 pieces that are this size together. Since this piece is a little wider, my mom had to do the little square thing from both sides, and then she had Jonathan check to make sure that it was even all the way across, because like I said before, you don't want it to be crooked or too short or anything like that. So always double check your measurements. And then he just started using the skill saw again to cut this piece, and this one kind of gave him a little bit more trouble, as you can see. And again, once it falls off, it's going to be a little bit rough on the edges. You'll just have to sand it down a little bit later with sandpaper or a sander, whatever you have available to you. As you can see, these are all the extra pieces that we had from cutting. You can just do whatever you want with these, and then it's always good to make sure that they're even once you are done cutting. And then we brought them inside to work for the rest of it. We just needed to cut outside because it gets very, very dusty out there with the saw. We were planning on staining this at the very end, which you'll see, but we wanted to have more of a rustic look to it, so we actually just took a hammer and beat the crap out of these things with it. It's the easiest way to get dents and dings in it with not a lot of effort. As you can see, we're just hitting it all over the place. It just leaves little indents, and then once you stain it, it kind of shows the different distresses of the wood. Makes it really, really pretty, and we had a lot of fun beating the crap out of it. Definitely recommend this for a more rustic look, and you'll be able to see it more once we're finished in this video. Next, we started putting the pieces together. As you can see, we have the three 1x10x6s all laid out next to each other, and then we grabbed one of the 1x4x8s cut at 62 inches apiece, and you want to put one on the top piece and one on the bottom piece, and you want to make sure that they're flush on the sides, because on the sides is where the legs are going to go. So it's super important that everything lines up. To attach all these boards together, we used 1.5 inch finishing nails for wood. This was just what the video we watched online showed us to do, and you literally just put them all the way across, especially on the ends, just to make sure that the pieces don't come apart. Like I mentioned before, you're going to want to put the nails on both sides, especially and throughout the middle, to make sure that it stays, and you want to make sure that your nails are straight in the wood so that they don't come apart. Next, you're going to take the other 1x4x8 piece that was cut at 62 inches, and you're going to want to put it across the bottom piece that is the 1x10x6. Again, you're just going to want to attach it with the finishing nails to make sure that it stays in place. You're going to want to make sure that it's flush on both sides so that when you go to put the legs on, everything is even. You want to make sure that your nails go in straight. Obviously, you can see my mom was having a little bit of a time with that, but you want to make sure that your nails go in straight so that the pieces don't come apart, so that nothing gets split or anything like that. And this one did have a barcode on the end just from where we bought it, and we do end up taking that off, again, just for looks. It'll be covered up, but we did it just in case it was going to poke through. So again, you just want to make sure that your nails are straight, and if you have to start over to make them straight, then that's what you need to do, just to keep them from splitting the wood or from coming up unattached, because if it comes unattached, then the whole thing is going to fall apart, and that would suck. This is where you're going to push all the 1x10x6s together, and then they already have the 1x4x8s attached to them that are nailed in. Then you're going to want to measure the space between the top and bottom piece. It should equal out to 20 3/4 of an inch. This 20 3/4 of an inch piece will actually come from the leftovers of the 1x4x8s that you cut previously for the top and bottom of the actual headboard itself. So don't throw your leftover pieces away, because you will be able to use them to finish making the headboard instead of having to buy all new pieces. As you can see, Jonathan is checking measurements one more time, like I said before, so that they don't get cut wrong. My mom had the idea before we cut it to make sure that it was actually going to fit in the spot that it was supposed to be going in. Just in case it was going to be too short, we could eyeball it a little bit. As you can see here, it looks a little bit longer than what we needed it to be, but we would rather cut it and it be too long than it cut and be too short. We brought it back over to make sure it was going to fit, and it fit fine on one side, but on the other side it was a little bit small, but you can always put putty in there and cover it up. We cut the other excess piece and put it on the other side. Again, this side was a little bit loose, but again, we're just going to put some putty in it, and then you sand over it, and once you stain it, you can't even tell. Once you do this, you're going to nail it in just like you did all the other pieces. We had a little bit of trouble with this one just because it was just a hair too small, that we were having a hard time getting it to stay in place. But we eventually got it. You can see it's a little bit crooked on this side over here, but not everything is connected yet because we haven't nailed everything in. So once you get everything completely even and flush with each other and you get these pieces put in, you're going to put nails through this, and that's what's going to hold the entire thing together. Jonathan had to sand down this piece because it was a little crooked and it wouldn't fit completely right. So that's the only reason we're sanding this, is so that it would fit. And then we're just nailing everything in like I mentioned before. This is what's going to hold all these pieces together. If you wanted to nail each individual 1x10x6 piece in, you could, but that's honestly a little more difficult than just cutting this piece and attaching everything to the one piece. So this is what we chose to do. When you start putting the nails in, definitely don't be shy. I would rather have more than I need than not enough, because you don't want it to come apart. We put 2 at the very top, 2 at the very bottom, and then we put like 4 or 6 in the middle, just to make sure that that piece wasn't going anywhere. Once you do that side, you're obviously going to want to go and nail in the other side because you don't want any loose pieces. You want to make sure everything is tight and holding itself together. To fill the space in between the edge pieces, we're just using this wood filler. It is stainable, so like I said before, once you put it in and stain it, then you won't even really be able to tell that it's there. It pretty much just looks like peanut butter, and you just have to push it in down into the crack that you need filled. Once you've got all your nails in and your wood filler, this is what it will look like. We haven't attached the legs yet. This is just the actual headboard itself, but it looks pretty plain for now. We haven't put the top pieces on or the legs like I mentioned before, but this is pretty much what it looks like before stained or anything else is added. This is just the base piece. That was the front, and as you can see, my mom is flipping it over to the back so that we can attach the legs to the back. Please ignore the mess back there of all our furniture that we're storing in the basement. To attach the legs, we're going to be using these construction screws that are 2.5 inches long. We just use the 2x4x8s as the legs, and then you're going to put the screws in each corner so that it doesn't come apart. To put the screws in, we just use a drill. You could probably use a screwdriver, but I'm not sure how difficult that would be considering this is wood. A drill is honestly just so much easier to use than a screwdriver, and it gets it done a lot quicker than a screwdriver would, so that's why we used this. It got them in there exactly how far they needed to be, and they fit perfectly. Everything was tight, and we didn't have to worry about anything coming loose. We decided that it would probably be better to put screws in the top, middle, and the bottom instead of just the top and bottom, just to make sure that everything stayed together and was sturdy once we actually went to put it up in our room. This is totally a personal preference, but I do think that it's probably sturdier this way than just with the 4, 2 at the top, 2 in the bottom. We definitely recommend putting some in the middle as well. Now my mom is measuring from the bottom part of the headboard to the bottom part that will sit on the floor. She's measuring on both sides to make sure that it's going to be flat once we set it on the floor. You want to do this on both sides because if they are uneven, you're going to want to sand it down or take the screws out and kind of start the process over because you don't want it to be crooked. This piece right here is the 1x4x8 that was cut at 63 inches. It just goes across the top, and the reason that it's 63 inches is so that you can have a little bit of overhang on each side. Again, this is just kind of like a details and dimension kind of thing. You don't have to do this, but I think it does look better like that. And then you're just going to take the same screws as you used for the legs and drill it in from the top. No one's going to be able to see it because it's on the top, so it doesn't really matter what color the screws are or anything like that. So now they're going to nail more in on the top right here, just because they only used screws before. And then we got to sand it and stain it, and it will be all done. A little bit of time has passed, so the wood filler that we put in has dried, and now my mom and Jonathan are sanding it down so that it'll have a smoother finish. You don't want it to be crusty and bumpy and just look like it's dirty. So that's what they're doing here before we move on to staining it. And you also want to sand down any other pieces of the headboard that may have splinters or pieces of wood sticking out or anything that's not completely smooth and it's not supposed to be that way. Obviously this is unfinished wood, so it's not going to be perfect, but you want it to get it as smooth as possible so that the stain will soak in and that it will look even all the way across once you do get the stain on. The stain color that we chose was dark walnut. My mom already had this in our basement, so that's why we chose it. And we're just using cut up old t-shirts to dip it in and rub it across. You don't want to get too much because the wood doesn't soak it up as fast as you might think. So you want to make sure that you're just kind of dabbing and spreading it out and wiping up all the excess that the wood hasn't soaked up so that you don't get pieces that are completely too dark or completely too light. I just kind of dripped it across and then spread it as much as I could. You want to make sure that you all are going the same way, either side to side or up and down. And as you can see, these little white dots, it just looks like dots right now, but once it dries, that is where we hit it with a hammer, and you'll be able to see the distressed wood from us beating it with the hammer. My mom always does this, so as you can see, I kind of got mine way too wet. You want to make sure you don't do that. If you do by accident, you just need to go behind it with something dry like a paper towel or t-shirt to wipe up the excess amount of stain. This is what it looked like once we were finished staining for the most part. Obviously, we still needed to do the underneath and the bottom, and if we wanted to go back and do another coat, we definitely could. It all just depends on your color preference, but I like the way that this turned out actually a whole lot. In order to stain the backside, we got this huge piece of like painter plastic and just leaned it up against the wall on that so that we could all just take turns staining the back. It was a lot easier than waiting for the other side to completely dry and then flipping it over on the ground. This way we made a lot less of a mess and we were all able to still work together to do the back. And it just went a lot quicker than having to wait a couple hours for all the stain to dry. And this is what the final product looks like once everything is stained and all that good stuff. Our bed will come up to about here. I love all the different color browns and I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. So I just realized that I forgot to film an outro for this video, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will link what I can down below. It may not be the exact same video, but I'll try my best. And since I'm posting this video way later than when we actually built it, I thought I would show you guys what it actually looks like in our room. Our bed doesn't come up quite as high as I thought it would, but honestly, I love the way it looks. And we painted this wall like an olive green color, and it just looks so good. So for the final reveal, I'm going to show it with our actual bed and our room and all that good stuff. It was super easy to make, honestly, a lot easier than we thought. It only took us about an hour and a half total to make the whole thing. And that was with my mom and Jonathan doing all the work. I was literally just filming. I wasn't really helping very much. So yeah, without further ado, let's show you what it looks like. So excuse all the pillows and stuff, but this is what it looks like. We just moved into our house, so we don't have any decorations up yet or anything, but this is what it looked like, and we just attached it to the wall. You could use anchors, but we just used small pieces of 2x4s and drilled screws through here into the stud in the wall. Jonathan did all that, and that keeps it from shaking, and it's just a gorgeous headboard, and it's even cooler because we made it ourselves. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe down below, and I will see you guys in my next video.